Aloha, Sandra here, and we are going to focus today on our core. Or on our core, but mostly really on the center of the body. And I've got my fancy dancy cut-off t-shirt from the kids department at Target to inspire me and maybe you as well as we sparkle through this together. So we're going to start after you're ready for that big introduction. One of the most challenging things to do for your core, one of the best things to do for your core, you can do it right now, mountain pose. Bring your feet parallel to each other and stand with your hips over your heels. Haha, those who've seen my videos know that this is not the first time, but I want to emphasize today how standing like that gets this part of your body and this part of your body. A core is not just the belly, it's also our back, the center, all these different parts work together. But when we're standing like a banana, this just kind of is. So when we try to stand upright, but we're still standing with our hips a little forward, we overuse the quads and the belly doesn't activate so much. But when we bring the hips over the heels, then especially the lower belly, which I think for many people I know is much harder to access than the upper belly. These muscles here seem to be easier to access. We also kind of use them when we cough and we laugh, but the lower belly is a little harder to engage. So we're going to play with some of that today while starting in mountain pose, hips over your heels. Then take your hands to your hip points and gently draw them towards each other. So literally, I mean, your bones don't move a lot, but bones are organic matter, so there is a little hint of movement possible, but you might feel other tissues too. As you bring your hip points towards each other, take your shoulder blades down your back, so you can even, when you do this, dome up in your armpits a little bit. If you're not sure what I mean by that, play with the sense of shoulder blades down, lifting the muscles in the armpits up as you bring your hips over your heels. Good. Then take a moment, mountain pose. Reach your shoulder blades down. Now keep this length in your spine. We're going to keep the stability in the center. So lower ribs, hip points, pubic bone line with each other. But imagine you have a big wind behind you. I filmed a short video among some sunflowers where we did this. It was very windy, but now there's no wind, but you can pretend there's a wind from your back taking you forward, behind your back, taking you forward, and you have to stay stable in the center. Bring your hands down, lengthen your spine up through the crown of your head, and then come back. Okay. Shoulder blades down. Just notice how far can you go. So when my feet are firm, my heels are not lifting. I need to use the strength of the center of my body to balance out my body coming forward and my heels wanting to lift. So I ground down, reach to the top of the thighs, heels ground down, and then come back. Now I'll go the other way. Can't go as far. We already know it's hard to bring the hips over the heels, but can you go a little further? Draw up on the lower belly to allow you to lean back just a little bit. This time let your toes come off the ground, but still keep the length in your spine. Notice how I just tilted in my back. That's what we're trying to avoid, that kind of tilting. We're not arching the lower back, just coming back. And then go back and forth between the two. Forward and back. I keep the toes on the ground as you do this. Forward and back. And we'll 2 more times. Forward and back. Forward and back. And then give a little wiggle to your arms and a little circle to your hips. It's going to get the belly moving in a different way. Switch the circle of your hips so we're really doing pelvic circles. Ami in Hawaiian, hula. And then make your way down to the ground to lie down on your back. Excuse me. And you don't need anything yet, unless you're an extra curvy person. Take the wedges under your back. Otherwise, lie on down. Take your hands onto your hip points. I should be using the wedges, but I don't have them around right now. I'm going to modify in my own way because of that, but I like you to, again, bring your hands onto your lower belly. Nice inhalation. As you exhale, draw your hip points towards each other. As you inhale, let go of that action. Let's do it 2 more times. On the exhalation, draw your belly down towards the floor without flattening your back. On the inhalation, expand belly. How big can your belly be? Make it nice and big, round. Exhale. All right, time to graze the grass. So this is the one that doesn't look like you're doing a lot, but it's amazing for the center of your body. So feel your feet on the floor. Imagine they're on some nice soft grass. You have a little bit of a space under your back, so you're not pressing your back into the ground. Begin to shift the weight out of your right foot so that the bones of the right foot feel like they're no longer pressing down towards the floor, but your skin is still touching. It's going to require movement in the center of your body to stabilize. Be careful that you're not pressing your left foot down actively. So the left foot doesn't change the weight, the left foot stays the same, the right foot lifts, and then option to take your arms up. Option to very slowly, this is an option. If this is new to you, don't do this yet. Just focus on the belly. But option 2, take your arms a little bit further towards the wall behind you. Arms engaged. Notice that you can't go very far while keeping the stability in the center. I go about this far. If I was to go further, let's see, I go a little further, but at some point my ribs are going to want to lift up. So keeping that right foot, keeping the stability in the center. Ooh, that's a good way to wake up the belly. All right, take your arms up. And second side. So this is something I'm just playing with fairly recently, the arm part of it. Hope you find it useful, those of you who have been doing this kind of thing for a while. So lift the left foot. Let that center of the belly engage. And then take your arms towards the wall behind you without shifting anything in the center. So hug the muscle to the bone, take the arm overhead, and then release. Good. Ah, that's nice. Now, lift both feet off the ground. Again, keep the lumbar curve and pressure. Take your hands behind your head first. Lengthen the back of your neck. You want to make sure the neck does not tense up here. You need to make some hair arrangements. Go ahead. And then press your hands into your thigh into your hands without moving your lower back. If this is too intense, do it with one leg. Otherwise, hand into thigh into hand. It's going to wake up the lower belly. I find it a little more difficult to talk when I do this. Breathe as you continue to hold. You get to choose how much pressure, little or a lot. As you hold, notice if your belly wants to puff up. Encourage your navel to move in the direction of your spine, but do not move your back. Do not move your spine. Just using the belly muscles. And let go. Now, nice inhalation, nice big poofy belly. Exhale, release. Happy, healthy belly, one that can poof and expand. How big can it be? Woo, it can be pretty big, or it can release all the way. That's one thing, in all those magazines, you see certain looking bellies. You don't very see anyone taking pictures on a big inhalation where their belly expands. Probably either on their exhalation or even after the exhalation is what a lot of those photos are about. Anyways, I digress. Back to feet up. If you did one leg, do the other leg. Hands into thighs, thighs into hands, shoulder blades down the back. Breathe. Challenge yourself, challenge your belly in a way that feels good. I find it feels good to really engage. Then it can feel very energizing. Once you get past the point of I don't want to do this, or being lethargy, this activation can feel great. And then you need to let go. I had one friend on my soccer team who sometimes when, like in between plays, she would just jump on the ground and do some like crunches to wake up her belly. I don't recommend that for now, but that's how she did it. Now she'd probably do something else, probably something we'll do a little later. So little Elvis twist, lengthen the top of your left thigh. Whole breath into the belly. Inhale, come up. Exhale to the other side. Getting that length, so after we contract, we lengthen. Inhale, come up. And Tetrasana a little bit. And then we're going to Tetrasana back to lying down on the ground, legs extended. Take your hand behind your head, lift up a little. Now as you lift up, encourage your lower ribs to lower down. Lengthen through the back of your neck. Keep your hands on the lower ribs, lower on down, and notice, do your ribs pop up when you take your head down? That's good information to have for this and for a lot of the other things I do in the other classes. Just want you to notice that now. Take your head back up. Now, if it's painful to hold your neck up here, take a block under your head. Otherwise, stay here, the chin towards your chest. Reach through your fingers, so you're starting to use your lower belly a little more. Reach through your fingers and then lift your legs. So we come into Ardha Navasana, half of a boat. So it requires belly activation, but it's really a full body movement, as so many official core movements are. Reach through your arms, reach through your legs. And then slowly lower on down. Lengthen, take your arms overhead. Again, keeping the rib cage stable. Let's do this one more time. So take your arms back up, reach them towards your feet, draw your chin towards your chest. Reach your fingers and lift the legs. Breathe. Maybe you have sparkles. Maybe you have your inner sparkle. And then release. Again, reach up nice and long. Bend your knees, roll over to your side. Come onto your hands and knees. Get your 2 blocks. And this is the reverse of grazing the grass. I don't quite know what to call it yet, but come up onto your 2 blocks so your spine is a little more parallel to the floor. And then let your head release. Look at your hips without moving your hips. Lift your right hand off the floor. So that's going to, again, require some stabilization in the center of your body. Breathe. Then switch hands. Take your left leg. So when I first started doing this, this was much harder. It's getting a lot easier over time. And release. So next challenge is to do the same thing with the leg. So I like to slide the block a little bit off to the side, or just move it. And then, so no block under your right knee. Look at your hips. That's the hard part, is to keep them even. There's a tendency for one to lift, one to drop. So you're using the 3 legs of the table. But in order for the 3 legs to work in this position, you have to use the center of your body. You can hear my voice shaking a little bit, so I'm definitely using the center of my body. Woo! And then release. Anytime you need a break, please take a break, because I'm going to keep moving, but you can always stop and start. Or just watch too. Because those of you who haven't done a lot of these kind of strengtheners, this might be pretty challenging. Those of you who do, come along with me. Okay, second side. You may notice one side's easier than the other. So, good. This side's easier for me, I'm noticing today. and then release. You can stay on the block and circle the hips again. So when you circle the hips, just really the pelvis, you get a little more movement in your belly. And then switch directions. So I'm going to invite you now to either take a rest, do a puppy pose and child's pose, or do the arm, do one leg, or for those of you up for a little extra challenge, one arm and one leg. So I'm going to take the block out away from my left hand. I'm going to keep my left hand on the floor, but lift my left leg and balance on my right knee and my left hand. I invite you to do the same. Notice. So the head's released down. A couple of reasons. One, it allows the traction for your neck. Two, it allows you to see, are your hips even with each other? Are you really doing what we're trying to do? You might be getting warmer, so maybe yes you are. Woo, and then release. And second side. Take the block out from under your right knee, right hand, left knee support you. And then release. Take your knees off the blocks and put them off to the side. And a few bigger circles, moving the hips around. And then switch directions. And then come back to center. And now, Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. When you're ready, child's pose. And then inhale. Let's come back to all fours. Spread your fingers. And then reach your right leg back behind, reach through the heel. As you do that, be careful you're not sinking the lower back. Keep the lower ribs, hip points in line with each other, because we're going to come from here into plank, a great belly strengthener. So reach through your right leg, take your left leg to meet it. And just hold there. Hands reaching down. If at any time this becomes too much for you, or you feel not good for you, come into downward facing dog as a break and or child's pose. Otherwise, stay here with me. I'm not looking at a timer, but we're just going to hang out here a little bit. Extra challenge, bend your elbows directly backwards. Directly backwards. No pain in the shoulder joint, please. Reach through your heels. Keeping a long straight line. And then make your way to downward facing dog. So that the next series of things we're going to do, including that plank we just did, are things you can throw in anytime during a practice. Anytime you want a little bit more activation, especially when you're in classes that are multi-leveled, even the ones I'm filming. Sometimes you may feel like, oh, I want to make this a little more challenging. Come into a plank position instead of dog pose. Some of the times we want the dog for the length, but come into plank position, or do the next thing we're going to do. Not tucking in the shirt, but that helps to have shirts that don't fly around. So then come into the plank again. I'm doing one leg at a time as a way to, I'll show you, as a way to really build the plank. So if you take one leg up, the other leg up, it's often much easier than to find the stability, to find a place of stability, as opposed to sometimes if you take both legs up, the hips come up higher, and then I'm not really getting the benefit of the exercise. It's a fine shape to be in, but here you're getting a little stress on the shoulders, I am at least, but you're not getting the belly and back activation that we're working towards. So hands come down, root down, reach through your back legs, and maybe bend your knees a little bit. Just throwing in an extra plank for fun. Oh, not bend your knees, bend your elbows. And then downward facing dog. Take a child's pose. And for those of you who aren't sure what I'm talking about in the plank, I just want to show again that I see a lot of planks are kind of like sagging like this. This puts a lot of strain on the lower back, or up like this, which doesn't really engage the belly, because that's kind of like standing like this, where you're not using the belly. And what we're trying to do is create a plank, a position where when we were standing, we were using the center of our body that emanated, and then that center emanates out through the limbs. So that's why I suggest doing your plank for at least at first till you get a feeling that by taking one leg, reaching through the heel, and then trying to maintain stability, come to the other leg. All right, so now let's all come to plank and make plank a little more challenging. Bring your left foot a little over to the right, and then take your right knee to your right elbow and hold that. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10's a good number. Come back to plank. All of a sudden plank seems easy. Do the other side. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Back to plank. Back to downward facing dog. So that is a fun one to wake up the center of the body. And notice no crunching, no rounding necessary when you do that pose. One of the reasons I like these ways of belly strengthening is you keep the length in your spine when you're doing it. We do enough rounding. I mean, sometimes fine doing a few rounding like we did Ardha Navasana earlier. But how do we have our belly strong when our spine's extended? Okay, another variation. Come back into plank. If you come into it from dog pose, you can come forward, but find again the reach through the heels. Okay, here we go. Now you're going to bring your knee towards opposite elbow. 1, 2, 3, 4. I said 3 and 4 too quickly, so I have to stay a little longer. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Bonus hold. Breathe. All right, and then come into plank. I'm ready for a dog pose. Breathe. And then one more side. Come into your plank, however you get there. Take your left knee towards your right elbow. Hang out here for at least 10 seconds. 9 seconds. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Back into dog pose. And child's pose. And inhale, come on up to sitting. So it's been a long day for me. I'm not going to do any more of those knee to elbows because those are pretty challenging, but I encourage you, if you have a little more time, you want to play with those, do a few more, and then you can turn off the video for a moment, and then when you're ready to come back, come to sitting. Sit bones ground, spine lengthen. We did a lot to contract here in a linear plane. So let's take a moment with a gentle twist. Right leg in front of your left. On your exhalation, spiral to the right, left hand to the right knee, right hand behind your back. Inhale, lift and lengthen. Exhale, spiral. One more inhalation. On the exhalation, unwind. Switch across of your legs. Exhale, spiral. One more inhalation. Exhale, unwind. So if you're doing this as just part of your practice, getting in some of that focused attention to the center of your body, go ahead and do whatever you feel like doing next. If you're ready for Shavasana, take a little time in Shavasana. I'm going to sit here for a little bit and breathe before the end of class. So your choice, Shavasana. Sit and breathe with me, or use that energized center to go do some other movements. And if you're in Shavasana, begin to bring your awareness back to your body, to your breath. If you're sitting, stay here a little longer. If you're in Shavasana, bring a little movement to your fingers, to your toes. Reach through your arms, through your legs, bend your knees, roll over to your side. Come up to sitting. As we sit, sit bones ground, spine lengthens. Let's bring our palms together over our hearts. On our exhalation, Namaste. Thanks for joining me in this fairly quick practice to get things energized in the center. Again, all of these can be done separately. I often do that, especially some of the reclined one, I often do that before I do some hip movements so that I have stability in the center before I do movements of my thigh bone. But really you can do them as a series like we just did, or pick a few and throw them into other aspects of your practice. Thanks for watching. Mahalo.